Alright, what's up guys? Fallen Winter here, and we're going to do a deck profile for the Shadow Paladin Raging Form deck. It's a pretty old limit break unit that Persona re-rides, but it kind of works in this meta just because there's a lot of people trying to grade lock and things like that, and because you're an entirely limit break deck, you don't care, so you can just go off even if they try to do that, and usually you can go off as quickly as like grade 3 ride if you have the right setup and just run them over while they're at grade 2. So the starting Vanguard is the Creeping Dark Goat, the grade 3 searcher, really basic, obvious choice because you want to search out your Persona copies so you can activate Raging Form Dragon's ability as much as possible or as consistently as possible. You can try running maybe David's or something just to try to get an Orgeyser play off early, but I like this for the consistency of Limb Break and getting Raging Forms stuff off. For the triggers is basic 8 crits of Raging or Revengers, 4 Raging. I'm really bad at this today. Sorry. Revenger draw triggers, and then 4 Revenger heals. That's the 0 lineup, pretty basic. For grade 1s, we have 4 Revenger Perfect Guards. You can try running the Unflipper Perfect Guards. I just like this for the consistency of having Revenger units as much as possible. The Unflip might come in handy in some decks, but this one doesn't counterblast too often, or when it does, they don't need too many more of it, so it's kind of a debatable whether you need them or not. You can try running both and see how you like it. I run 2 of the 10k attacker masquerades. These are just backups and revengers, so they come in handy sometimes. I also run 4 of the limit break remover Finnegas revengers. These are just really useful. Sorry, it's like glare all of a sudden, but these are just really useful because you can activate break rides as quickly as like your second turn on grade 3. You can also try to just ride Raging Form on your first grade 3 ride and try to use him right there if you have the copies. It's just all around nice card to go into. There's the 3 Dorant. He's for the unflipping engine with Blaster Dark Revenger. Really useful, and he's just a nice card to call out if you can have the chance of running into Blaster Dark Avenger, or for break ride turns where you just call the Blaster Dark Avenger in front of him and you got your break ride for free. And lastly, 1 Branwyn, the Stride Enabler, just because there's not too much space to run more stride oriented skills, but I figure 1 more, or just 1 extra chance at grade 3 pretty much is kind of helpful. Grade 2s is 4 Blaster Dark Revenger. Pretty obvious choice. Is just good for retiring stuff and unflipping. I run 3 of the Blaster Dark Revenger Abyss because killing back row is always useful and this deck doesn't need as much counterblast. I run 2 mana because she's just a free Spirit Call, and that means you can get Raging Forms easily, go for Diablos if you can try to pull that off, or just be able to search out rear guards. You can also try to use it to bring out the Limb Break remover so that you can try to go for Raging Forms during a turn where you don't have one. Lastly, we run the 2 Tartus. This is in here largely because you don't use Counterblast too often, so if you need it, you can just pure call something and make a column. And for the grade 3s, really basic setup here is the 4 Mordred Phantoms, the break ride, and the 4 Raging Forms, just because you want to try to ride or get his skill off as many times as possible or increase your chances of finding him. It works pretty consistently overall. As long as you hit the grade 3 to ride again, you're pretty okay. It's iffy if you get him or not, or if you don't get him, it gets kind of awkward because you can't do much besides stride, but it seemed to work pretty well as a more aggro deck, since you can pressure early with the re-ride. For grade 4s, I run 2 Grim Recruiters. It's just the basic on-hit Superior Call grade 1. It's useful for first ride, just to get something off and set up for Generation Break skills. And then we have you can try running 2 Orgeizers just to get a potential plus player, just try to get those types of skills off. That's not entirely necessary, but it's worth trying. You can also try running Dragoon Revenant just to make manas potentially permanent instead of going back to deck, and it's also not counterblast reliant like a lot of the other units, so you can try to get something out of your turn without needing counterblast in it. And then lastly, you definitely want to run the 4 Phantom Blaster Diablos. This is your game ender if your raging form plays didn't work or they didn't kill them, and you can just try to push your game with these and go for the +10 crit, or +10 and extra crit. And if you really need to, you can try making the full skill go off, where you force them to retire 2 units if you catch them off guard with that. That's the whole deck profile. If you guys have questions, comments, stuff like that, leave them in the comments and we'll get back to you guys when we can. Alright, see you guys later.